Hi, you are tuned into Way to New Zealand podcast. Well, today is a special day because we are rebranding Way to New Zealand. Now, Way to New Zealand podcast is going to be Way Abroad podcast, and it's brought to you by Uniqway. Uniqway is a new brand which was my NZ Uni before, and now it's become Uniqway. So today is a very special episode because our guest today is one of the investors of Uniqway. Please welcome Mr. Samir Handa. Hello, sir. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Sir,
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to be interviewing you because you have had so many achievements in your life. You started off with your mechanical engineering, and then from there on, you've been directors and trustee in a lot of companies in New Zealand. I would want to start with right from the beginning. So, mechanical engineering in Delhi. From there on, you were working in factories and you were working in refrigeration. From there on to becoming such a astute business owner. How was that journey like?
Yeah, journey was pretty exciting and full of adventures, challenges, I guess. So what I did was after I finished my mechanical engineering from Delhi College of Engineering, I worked in first in a factory in a motorcycle company called Scott's Yamaha. So that gave me a taste of working in a factory environment where we used to work literally 7 days and sometimes 14-hour shifts. Wow. It is a hard life being in a factory environment, especially a new factory. Yamaha was a new one. And after experiencing that for a while, then I decided I wanted to change and do a little bit more office-based work. So I moved to air conditioning company Blue Star.
Wow.
And I worked in Blue Star in Nehru Place for a couple of years. But based on that air conditioning experience, I got an opportunity to go and work in Middle East, doing the same thing. So yeah, that got me thinking that it's a good opportunity to. I was single, I was young, 24-year-old. I thought better go to Middle East, make some money.
And I think it's rightly said, right? If you do the hard yarns right in the beginning of your career, your future gets set that way. So all that 14 hours of work actually paid off.
Yeah, this was only the beginning, yes, but it was a good experience or exposure to get out and see the world a bit more than just being in India. Because until that stage, I had pretty much lived my life in Delhi itself. I did all my born, brought up, schooling, college, work, everything in Delhi. I hadn't even seen much of India till then. So yeah, I jumped into that opportunity and went to Muscat. That's something where, as I said, going overseas, exposure to different things opens your mind. So I looked around in my company and I saw people who were 15, 20 years older than me were doing exactly what I was doing.
Right.
And then I couldn't think of me staying there doing that thing for 20 years and being still stuck in the same engineering role. So that's where I started thinking I need to fast track my career and study some more. So that's where the thought of doing MBA came to my mind.
Right. So the MBA was the turning point. So taking that decision of doing an MBA and then getting into the leadership and management side.
Absolutely, yeah. I think as an engineer, I was, as you would imagine, was pretty good in analyzing things and logical things and numbers and mathematics and all that, but I had no clue about anything else. But MBA certainly opened up my mind towards economics, law, many other areas which as an engineer you don't learn much about.
Absolutely. Now, talking about coming to New Zealand, so you've also been awarded last year as the member of the New Zealand Order of Merit. So Samir, you're a man with wearing different hats, and you are very closely associated with businesses in New Zealand and in India. What are the different roles that you are currently managing?
Yeah, I was saying earlier, while I was growing this Kiwi business as a CEO and I expanded our business to India as well. That gave me opportunity to connect more and more with Indian businesses along with Kiwi businesses. I also worked very closely with NZTE, which is New Zealand Trade Enterprise, to able to achieve our expansion and growth in Indian market. So as a result of that, I've been going to India along with the Prime Minister on a few business delegations. I've been very active in India New Zealand Business Council. In fact, I was chairman of the council for last 3 years. Um, I also am on the board of Bank of India here in New Zealand. And so all those activities keep me very closely connected with Indian and New Zealand businesses. And that was recognized recently when I was given the New Zealand Order of Merit earlier this year as well. Oh, sorry, last year.
Years are flying by, but that's such a proud achievement for you. Like you know, 26 years back when you came first time into New Zealand. Had you ever thought that?
Looking for a job? Yeah, yeah. And I feel really blessed and proud that yes, we've been. I mean, I've been doing what I like doing as a passion anyway, but to get it recognized in a adopted country, really feel very blessed about that. That yeah, New Zealand government has recognized that I'm doing something useful to bring the two countries together, and that's my passion anyway.
I think it's such an important lesson that we learn here. That if you do something with all your heart, with integrity, with all your passion, somewhere down the line, it's all going to work up, and it's all going to give you the credit that you deserve.
Yeah, and works even for money as well. A lot of people I come across, young people who are always trying to chase money, but I always say you do the right thing and money will follow. You don't need to chase the money. And same with the recognitions. You do what you enjoy doing with full passion, and your recognitions, rewards, money, they all follow.
So I want to ask you this question here, and I'm going off script right now. Um, a lot of people say that don't run after money, run after your work, and money will follow. So does that mean, like, there's another school of thoughts that also say that always get value for what you do, and otherwise if you keep doing things for free, then you're not valuing yourself. So I usually get stretched between these two things. What would be your advice to me on how should I manage that?
I'm not sure I'm fully getting what
So
you're trying to
basically,
ask.
I'm very passionate about, I'll just share, I'm very passionate about, presenting, doing videos, doing media stuff. And then that's my passion. So it's not something that is a breadwinner for me. But, then getting paid for that is usually, it goes like, oh, that's your passion, why do you need to get paid for it? So there's always that dilemma whether I do it for money or I do it for passion. I don't know if I've explained.
Yeah, no, I mean, nothing wrong. In fact, what you're saying is very true. If you make your hobby or interest or your passion into your career as well, I mean, that's the best you can do. I mean, that's the happiest career one can have. I mean, no point doing a job, spending 8 hours a day, doing something you don't like, and then just doing that purely for money so you can spend the money onto your hobbies. Having the work hobby all combined into one is the ideal, in fact. And nothing wrong in charging more for whatever you're doing as long as you're very good at it. And as long as people understand that's your profession as well. I mean, the fact it's your passion and hobby, that's for you to decide, not others. For others, it's your job and career. So, yeah, as long as you keep doing better and better and get really good at it, I think good money will follow.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you. I have taken the advice. Now, let's go back to how did you land into New Zealand and how was your journey in New Zealand to start off with?
Yeah, so as I was saying, I was in Middle East and decided to do MBA, and that's where I looked around and sat for GMAT exam, and finally ended up in Australia. I went to University of Sydney to do my MBA. So, and by the time I finished my MBA, which was 1992, both Australia and New Zealand were going through a recession. Finding jobs were a bit hard. So, but that took me to Fiji. So I had a job offer to go and work in Fiji as an expat.
Wow.
So that was another very interesting experience where I went back into manufacturing environment again. I was looking after 14 different factories in a small city, Lotoka. So I stayed there for 3 years as an expat, but then decided to have family, like kids and all that. So both me and my wife, then we moved to New Zealand with the intention of having children and raising children here in New Zealand. That was the main motive to come to New Zealand.
Wow. So what year did you come into New Zealand?
95, so almost 26 years ago.
Wow. And when you came in here, what was your first job like?
Yeah, first job was very interesting. Took me about 4 weeks to find a job. And when I went for an interview, the company was advertising two roles, one in Auckland and one in Sydney. So after the interview, they said I can pick and choose whichever
Oh,
role I wanted. And I said, no, I've been in Sydney, I've been in Australia, but the reason I'm here, I want to experience New Zealand living. So I took the role in Auckland. And again, based on my experience, knowledge, or skills, whatever, within 4 years in that job, I got four promotions.
wow.
And by the fourth year, I was the CEO of the business. So this was a refrigeration wholesaling company, locally owned by two individuals. And during those 4 years, when I became the CEO, they sold the company to a public listed company, investment company in New Zealand. So yeah, that company called Halaby Holdings, they made me the CEO of the business. And then from there on, I remained CEO for 20 years and expanded that local company into a multinational company, opened offices in Australia, set up a factory in Thailand, opened sales offices in India, set up distribution in Middle East, Africa. So yeah, it was a pretty reasonable size company by the end of it.
Wow. So you are known to take small companies and make them multinational, make them huge.
Yeah, that's what I've done so far. So I'm trying to do that again now with this investment we're talking about, Uniqway. That's the plan. But yeah, I've also been involved in many other businesses where I love to see the business grow, and not just only the business, but also the people involved in the business.
Yeah.
I see people grow as well. So yeah, that's really gives me a kick.
Yeah, I think that's what I've heard usually, that people don't invest in businesses, but they invest in people that are associated with businesses. So, is that the reason you are associated with Uniqway?
A Uniqway association is very special to me. I mean, I've always been very passionate about education in general, but also more so about overseas education. I mean, I've been there myself, so I know what's involved. And I mean, one of the reasons I did engineering in Delhi was my family couldn't afford to send me anywhere outside Delhi. So I had to try hard to find admission in a Delhi engineering college.
Yeah.
So yeah, going overseas is a big step for any student or the family because it does involve a fair amount of money. So yeah, so I think Uniqway we decided will be absolutely the best platform which we haven't seen yet in the market, where it is fully focused on students,
Yeah.
and students get absolutely unbiased, uh, clear advice without any hooks or anything. So I think that will be really ideal and good for students, future students, and their families to make a very informed decision for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. We hope for that. And while we're doing this, and for people who are tuned in, I just want to dig into your brains, because you've created empires. Um, as a leader, as a CEO, what are the traits that you look at when you're hiring people under you, or when you're looking at people who you want to work with? What are like those distinguishing traits that you look at?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I have always been a big advocate of forming good teams. And once you form a good team in any business or any kind of a situation, then yeah, you're bound to be successful. So finding the right people to include them in your team is the key. And I guess what it comes down to is, of course, everybody knows the main thing is the attitude of the person you're looking at. So if they have the right attitude, positive attitude, I mean, skills can be learned. It's not absolutely necessary for them to have all the necessary industry skills. But yeah, as long as they are very positive, full of energy, right attitude, right thinking, I think yeah, that's the key in finding the right people.
Absolutely, I completely agree to that one as well. And now, because you have stayed in different countries, different places, this question is around, for someone who's tuned in right now, what exactly do they require to get into a new country? Because when you're getting into a new country, you're getting into a new environment altogether, and there are a lot of things that are new, and it's not as per normal that's happening. So you have to adapt and adjust to them. What would be your advice? What should be your mindset when you're moving into a new country, or a new outside your comfort zone, basically?
Yeah, no, as I said earlier as well, I mean, as long as you got a positive attitude and you're open to changes and you're flexible enough to adapt and change yourself, don't have any, fixed ideas about this, you will do and this you will not do. I'll give you some examples. When I was in Middle East, uh, it was very hard for a single person to be living and working in a Middle Eastern country like Oman because of restrictions. And as a young bachelor boy, I could not be seen with any girl in public. I mean, you can imagine how
Tough
hard
time.
that is. So many times I used to feel I'm in a golden cage. I've got a lot of money, but I mean, I can't really enjoy my freedom or have a good life. So going from that to Sydney for MBA, I mean, it was the overnight change. It was a big cultural shock where I was seeing women in burqas, and next day on Bondi Beach, they were literally not wearing anything. I said, "Oh my God, what's happening?" So
Where was I for so many years?
exactly. So I mean, as long as you're open to all that and you
Yeah.
don't get too carried away one way or the other,
Hmm.
then that's fine. And in fact, a lot of people may struggle with that. But when I went to Sydney, where I had already worked for several years, 3 years in India, 2 years in Middle East, a lot of people would say, "Oh, I will not do that. I will not do that." But I was quite open to. So I worked as a waiter while I was studying in my MBA in Sydney. I did babysitting. I helped people move houses. I did gardening. I did all kind of odd jobs without worrying or caring about what people will think, because I was focused on myself, not what people are thinking about. So you do what you need to do, and as I said, as long as you have the right attitude and you're flexible, yeah, those are the key things. And I've seen many people come and say, "Oh, I used to be a big boss in my previous life, and I will not do this job. This is a very junior job." So that's not the right attitude, because I mean we realize the dignity of labor. Every job is as important and as good.
Yep.
It's all in your mind. You think it's big or small or good or bad. So yeah, as long as you take care of those things, you'll be fine.
I think it's such an important lesson in life where dignity of labor is something so important, but also along with that, not worrying about what the society is going to say. Because I think for us, we come from such backgrounds where we heavily rely on what are people going to say about that. And I think that is one of the essential qualities you need to have, where you need to turn your eyes off or have blinders on and just do what you feel is the right thing to do at that point.
Yeah, exactly. And again, you need to look at where you are. I mean, if you are in a society where everybody else is doing as well, all those things, so
Right.
then of course there's no shame in doing something. So yeah, you can't have the ideas of living in India and applying those to while you're living in New Zealand or Australia. So you need to. That's why I say need to be a little bit flexible in that regard, where you have to have an open mind about things rather than having very fixed ideas. That's why you will see a lot of people say it's a lot easier to adjust in a new country if you go in a younger age, because while you are young you don't have a lot of fixed ideas, so you can mold yourself to suit the environment. But even if you move to different country in older age, keep that in mind that
Be
you are
flexible.
still young and hard. I mean, don't worry about the people. Just do what looks the right to you and what's best for you.
I think one more important fact that you've covered is that there are a lot of distractions around when you move into a new place, and it is very important for us to understand what our real focus is and not get carried away. Like you give an example of how you went to Sydney and you saw on beaches. So it's very easy to get distracted and lose focus. Um, any message you have for people that you think would be important for them to remind themselves to get back onto that focus?
Yeah, I guess of course self-control key plays a key role in that. I mean, you got to be focused and determined when you take a big step of moving to a different country anyway. And also when you know what is at stake, if your parents have sold their piece of land to send you abroad, or they have mortgaged the house to send you abroad. So you think at all those things and see how many people are making sacrifices for you to be there where you are. So you don't want to get distracted and lose track. So you need to stay pretty focused on what you're doing. Absolutely.
Awesome. Now I'm just going to ask you some very personal questions. I've already asked you a lot of personal questions, but this is really very personal. Mental stress and mental well-being is talked about a lot nowadays. What do you do to unwind or keep your mental peace?
Yeah, well, mental stress and mental health, I think, yeah, I sometimes laugh about that, in the sense is when we grow up in India, the definition and meaning of stress is very different to the meaning of stress in the Western world. So a lot of things which stress people out here in this country, in New Zealand, I mean, they don't stress me at all because, growing up and doing, as you would imagine, doing 10 plus 2 or engineering in a good college in India. I mean, once you go through that path in your career in a young age, you deal with so much stress. Nothing seems stressful after that. But on the flip side, yes, it is very important, I guess, to handle the stress properly. I mean, we know the stresses are some are positive and some are negative. So positive stress is good. I mean, sometimes I personally also believe I perform better under pressure, under stress. If there's no pressure, sometimes I try to procrastinate and think, let the pressure build up and then I'll do something about it. So I guess everybody handles stress differently. So if you are grown up in a very stressed environment, then you'll handle it a lot better than others. But it is an important thing, and you need to find your own ways to deal with it. But personally, I find a lot of long walks. I do when I have a lot in my mind, I just go for a walk by myself without any company. So that helps me think over things and clear my mind. Or I'll watch a silly movie or something to relax myself. But yeah, different people will have different ways of dealing.
No, you very rightly said. I think, and no disrespect to the Indian education system, but the Indian education system has kind of inculcated in us that until there's fire under you're sitting on fire, you'll not work. That's how it used to be. So
work under pressure, which is good, makes you adopt to working under pressure really well.
Yeah, and I think that's one of my key strengths on my CV as well, working under pressure. But thank you so much. It was amazing having this conversation with you. Any final message you would like to give our audience who's tuned in today on, what they should do? What should be their action plan to reach where you have reached? Because I think what is really important is that you came here in 1995. So you had already lived your, few years in India, in Middle East, in Australia,
Fiji,
and then coming here and then establishing yourself and then reaching that stage where today you are managing so many, or you're on the board of directors for so many businesses. What would be your advice for someone who's, I would not say your son, because sons usually don't listen to their fathers, but I would say, what would be your advice for someone who's just starting up right now, who's 18, 19, looking at that next career switch?
Yeah, what I will suggest is having a broader outlook in life, traveling as much as you can, because traveling teaches you a lot as well. So travel, if you get a chance to go overseas to work, live, stay, do that. And one of the things I have found helped me a lot in my life is forming friendships and networks while I've lived and worked in different countries. So even when I was running this business in New Zealand and I had to expand it, I reached out to my old contacts in Middle East, India, wherever I had lived and worked. So I'm in those contacts, especially these days, there's no excuse with the technology we have available, like, LinkedIn and internet. And my time, all that wasn't there. But luckily with this technology now, I'm able to reconnect with all my old 30, 40-year-old friends. So I think there's no excuse not to have that connections. And those connections are very powerful. They help you a lot in life. So keep working on them. And don't burn your bridges ever with anyone, anywhere. So
that's such a beautiful thought. I think relationships, managing relationships, and not burning the bridges. That's such a wonderful lesson. Thank you so much, sir. It was a wonderful pleasure to have you here and have this chat with you. I'm sure if you're watching right now, definitely there's some things, a lot of things that you've taken out of it, but there might be those two things that are going to stay with you for a while. So thank you for being a part of this.
Thank you for having me. Thanks.